Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy Road Dogg with none other than the man, the myth, the 4.5-foot legend himself, the bull riding champion of 2019, Karl Bryan. Welcome to the show.
Shoots. It is Stampede season. Is that why I'm getting the?
You know what? Sorry, folks. When I say bull riding, I mean he used to ride sheep, like the kids do at the little rodeos. That's Karl.
Hey, Road Dogg. I may or may not have ridden a sheep in my day. So there you go, as a little kid. So you heard it here first.
You know, it's great when I try to crack a joke of something that I think would be completely outrageous, and then you confirm that no. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have done that before.
Buddy, I grew up in Cochrane, Alberta, man. The homes of cowboys and Indians, and rodeo was the biggest show in town by a long way. Was the rodeo? So there you go.
So good. It's so good. Like, all right. Cool, man. So, but you're probably also the kind of guy that tucks his jeans inside of his cowboy boots. So, I'm just going to throw that out there. All right.
May or may not happen as well, Shoots. So,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you probably also wear a white cowboy hat. Okay.
No comment.
Right. I got to get this back on the tracks here.
You do,
because the image of you riding a sheep in cowboy boots is extraordinarily amazing.
And a white hat. Hat.
Yeah, and a red shirt. And probably red jeans, as a matter of fact.
Red? Yeah, my favorite pair of jeans growing up were red. Big Star Shoots.
Okay, this is way more information than anyone needs to know. Okay, hey, you know what we are? We are a business podcast. So we are, in fact, not a cowboy podcast and talking about riding sheep. We're going to talk about something that you can do with your business. And I actually have a good question. And this one is good, much like you finding the motivation to join a rodeo at a young age. But the secret to motivation, like this is what it is, like motivation to make calls, right? To do the outreach, to build a prospect list, to build that JV list. So somebody wrote in like, man, like how do I continue to motivate myself? And I thought, what a fantastic question, especially, like there's going to be like long summer months and stuff like that where you sometimes, man, oh man, it's tough to motivate yourself. So is there a secret to motivation?
Secret to motivation. Look, the problem isn't motivation. The problem is momentum. For somebody thinking, think of that as a frame, right? So if you're in that space where you're looking for motivation, you're looking in the wrong place. You're looking for momentum. Tony Robbins will say, don't go for a 3-mile jog. Put on your shoes and walk outside and then plan to walk around the block, and magically you'll get significantly further. So again, the problem is momentum. Get some momentum. Just put on your shoes and leave them in front of the front door with the socks. So it's very hard to get, kind of come up with the excuse. But, doing too much is hurting, not helping, is what I would say also around motivation and getting momentum, rather than trying to do multiple things. In fact, literally spoke to somebody today about starting a business, somebody pretty close to me, right? And they've got this idea around 2 different businesses, right? And I just said to him, when you chase 2 rabbits, how does it work out, right? He knew the answer. Trick is to do less. So Like, who are you following? I just kind of like we've talked about this, and I don't want to just rehash, you know what I mean, like over stuff we've talked about in the past. But when I go to my Facebook feed generally, and there's absolutely way too much about an impending recession and blah, tighten up, blah, 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 all that, you know what I mean? That the recession, you should be fearful. You should be fearful. There's a little bit of that in my Facebook feed, far more than normal. But who are you following? Like, again, if people are like negative, and those people that want to air their dirty laundry on Facebook or in your own world or in your social circle or over a beer or at the church or at the charity or wherever you're hanging out, I would, think about exiting those groups. Like, what do they say? You are the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? It's like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. They've all independently been asked, what's the secret, right? And it's always the same answer. You can see interview on top of interview on top of interview where they both said the same thing. Michael Jordan, pretty much word for word, but it was fall in love with the game, right? In fact, tennis recently, U.S. Open, good old Aussie Kyrgios, bit of a bad boy of the tour. He finally made a grand slam, and there was a ton of discussion. And you go back and you'll see it right there. But it talked about the love of the game, and specifically the love of the game that he had over the 2 weeks where he made the final in Wimbledon, and then in the past where he's had an inability to really fall in love with the game. In fact, I think he said something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing a fair bit here, but he found his relationship with tennis to be a little bit abusive. And if you really look at it, really, he abuses it back, right? So if there was a secret and there's not one, you need to fall in love with business. Let's assume that this is a business coach looking for some momentum, looking for some motivation around business coaching. You got to fall in love with business coaching. You got, again, secret, you got to go all in. What books do you read? What books are you buying? What blogs do you go to regularly? What videos do you watch on YouTube when you don't need to, in your spare time? Like a powerful statement. And again, I've said this in the past, but I believe it to be insanely powerful. But a professional gets paid to practice, right? Like when I personally, like when I listen, when I journal, and when I read, I indirectly get paid handsomely, the same way that my boy Tom Brady, Bro Dog's gonna love that I got him in there, but he gets paid more from like Monday to Saturday or whenever. Like, he gets paid more to practice than he does for game day. Like the practices make up 90% of his week, and the game is 10%, right? It's a very small amount that you see on Sunday in front of, a full stadium. So, and a challenge you might see here is that I've often said, doing what you love is a great way to go broke, right? Or a great way to end up broke. So think of it as, don't do what you love, but love what you do. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Michael Schumacher back in the day. They love to train and compete. Michael Jackson, Prince, these kinds of guys. I mean, they would have, you know what I mean? They were in love with their craft. So it wasn't really training. And again, you only saw them in concert. They're only in the recording studio for a certain period of time. It's the practicing where they're really getting paid. That's where the real value is. And that's also why they excel. So when you see them on tour, like you go to see them for 3 hours at, the Madison Square Garden, and they really perform. It's because, again, it's the practice that they did away from it, right? Like, what are they doing when nobody's watching, right? So, what am I trying to say, Rod? That momentum, like, fall in love with marketing your coaching services. Fall in love with that. Fall in love with picking up the phone. Fall in love with sending private messages. Fall in love with, the groups in Facebook and going and adding value to those groups. Maybe it's cosmetic surgeons. Maybe it's dentists. Maybe it's chiropractors. Maybe it's whatever on LinkedIn. Fall in love with going to those groups. Fall in love with, results for your clients. Fall in love with their lifestyles instead of your lifestyle. Fall in love with the coaching process and really understanding how to move people. Shout out to Tony Robbins. Like, let's face it, the man is, you love him, you hate him, it's completely irrelevant. The guy is so good, right, at moving people that it just hopefully you'd agree that that's undeniable, right? Body of work over many, many decades. And like, he knows how to move people. You give him someone who's suicidal in front of 5,000 people, and like, he sits there and he solves the problem, right? So, or fall in love with the quick wins. Fall in love with, intellectual property, right? Like I did. Bottom line is fall in love with it. And I think rope, Doug, like I'm trying to think of a rope, like if you fall in love, it'll pull you, and you won't need to feel like you're pushing. You know what I mean? Like that momentum, that momentum will come kind of organically. And careful not to fall in love with the lifestyle. Like fall in love with your client's lifestyle. Like I said a minute ago, don't fall in love with your lifestyle, right? Like that's a pit. Like, remember, what do I say? A real mentor can tell you what not to do. When you see a guy or a coach, let's say, that's really made it and then lost it, often we see life. If you reverse engineer and you go back, 18 months, 12 months, 6 months, you're going to see a good chance that lifestyle creep is what dragged them down, right? Like they buy the car, they buy the boat. And what happens, what people don't realize, when you buy the boat, you actually have to spend time on the boat, right? What does that do? That keeps you away from what it is that you actually need to be doing to buy the boat. You know what I mean? Like, so you can't get surprised when it goes in the wrong direction. You're just spending more money on cars than advertising, right? Spending more time traveling, first class and taking pics and putting on Facebook like that again. I don't know. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I don't have a ton of time for that, but you're just spending too much time with your stuff and then in the office. So what does that mean? Like, okay, so a frame for what I just said, feedback loop is what you need. We've talked about this semi regularly over the last whatever number of months or couple of years. You need to use the money that you make in your coaching to feed back into the system, right? So the answer I get asked, okay, Karl, I'm doing $100,000 a year with my coaching and I want to go to 250. What's the solution? What's the secret? What's the roadmap? And the answer is it's more than this, but it's a feedback loop, right? So when you go from 100 to 150, what are you doing with the extra 50,000? And you need to feed it back into your system. When you go to 100 to 200, what are you doing with the extra $100,000? You got to feed it back to the system. And then how do you do that? Start buying ads, hiring a staff member. Again, everybody, they're staring at Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin, when they could go spend 50 grand on an executive, not an executive assistant that lives overseas and that kind of, half-assed it. I mean, somebody who really works side by side and really helps you, hire a staff member, buy programs, join masterminds, start going to trade shows, start going to events, buy education, buy high level education. If you're in business coaching and you're not working with us, I'm going to just shout it. You should be working with us. You should at least be absolutely giving it a go. It's not just about the software. It's not just about the training to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. It's about the community. Like we're running an event in very short order, virtual business coaching mastery that you can only get at if you're a client of ours. And we've got 12 of our high end, six-figure, multiple six-figure, and seven-figure coaches that are going to show up and basically show all of our clients how they can find any business owner how they can put $100,000 in their client's jeans in the first 100 days of working with them. So they're all given that as a frame, $100,000 in 100 days with the new client, right? And 12 speakers are all going to have 12 different roadmaps. No doubt there'll be a little bit of overlap, but you'd be amazed at how you're going to see that each of them is going to do it a little bit differently. And then if you're there, you're probably going to find that 1 to 3 of the 12 you're really going to resonate with. And it's often not the one that you assume it's going to be. And, you really start following the roadmap that they lay out, and everybody's going to, the marching orders are they have to have a workbook for our guys to work with. So anyway, that's part of how we help elevate our coaches, right? We want them to fall in love, not with the coaching clients and the money and their bank account and the boat. We want them to fall in love with the coaching, fall in love with their clients, fall in love with the lifestyle of their clients as opposed to theirs. So what I'm shouting out here is like, if you go from $100,000 to $200,000, you make an extra 100,000. What are you going to do with it? Again, ads, staff, programs, mastermind, education, build intellectual property. And a real mentor can tell you what not to do. Hold off on flying first class and, going on expensive trips and heading to Europe and, the boats and the Beamers and the, private jets. I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, by the way, but I would highly, lifestyle creep happens all the time, and I think it can be murderous, for that momentum, that motivation, and it just steers things in the wrong direction. So, Road Dog, what do you think? That help? You like?
I've got a good quote for you, and then but before I get there, I need to point out that I know it's personal to you when the first two examples of businesses you use are cosmetic surgeons and dentists, two of your favorites of all time and most highly used. So it's fantastic. Love it, love it, love it. Because typically you default butcher, baker, candlestick maker, totally candlestick making, completely overlooked. Listen, Todd Herman, if you know Todd Herman, he had a fantastic quote, because we talk about momentum, but also just generally enjoying what you do, right? Like, if you enjoy what you do, you're just going to show up. And he had a quote that said, design your game and make sure it's a game you want to show up for and play every day. And I just thought that's so good, because a lot of us, it's almost as if, don't you think, we fall into this trap of, well, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is how it's always been done. And this is the way that you also need to do it. And then we sort of hate components of that, rather than kind of going, well, no, I'm going to play it this way, because that way it's actually a lot more fun for you, which will then actually make it more like you're actually going to show up to want to do it. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I wrote a high five. Could not agree more. So an example that I would give to a coach, here's what we've seen. If we look at all of our most successful coaches, the multiple six-figure, the seven-figure earners, the multiple seven figures, that the guys and gals and the coaches that really, really crush it, invariably we see that they end up in a room full of people, and it might be 4 people, it might be 40 people, it might be 400 people, and it might be 4,000 people, right? But they love to do the presentation. So as a business coach trying to make it work, sure, it's awesome to make lots of money and do well, yada, yada, yada. But when they can do a weekly, bi-weekly, even a monthly event where local business owners are coming, and again, they're giving their advice. Like you take a quote like you just heard, right? And then and it means something to you and it resonates with you, and you're like, wow, you gotta treat it like a game, and it needs to be a game that you want to play. Well, I think that most coaches love the idea of playing the game of running live events. You know what I mean? So therefore, that's a game that they're going to be willing to play at a higher level. They're going to show up at a higher level for. It's even when you end every podcast with progress equals happiness. When you roll up to the event and there is 4 people, there is 8 people, they're getting results, they're taking notes. They're giving you feedback. You're learning more. You come up with a different way of saying something. You find a more impactful way to deliver a story. You find a better way to tell a joke. You find another way to get them to stand up, and you get a better way to get them up and dancing. You get another way to get them energized at the beginning of the event. You know what I mean? Like, so that's it. That is a game. It's not just about how much money you make. And although Live Event Mastery or running local live events on a regular basis is, frankly, it's a license to make money as a business coach. Like, you just can't miss. But you have to do, again, frame. You got to do 10 of them, okay? Because you could do the first 3 and not get a single client. You could do the first 3 and get 10 clients. But what you do got to do is you got to do all 10, because that's when you get good. That's when the audience gets good. That's when the referrals start to flow. That's when you get better at the jokes. You get better at the entertainment. You get better at the content. You get better at the examples. You get better at storytelling, etc. And by the way, not to mention the people at the chamber, the people at the yacht club, and the people at the golf club, they start to see that you're legit. They start to see that you're for real, right? So guess what? They start showing up at a higher level, right? So anyways, I totally love that. I think, so the coaches, if they like what you just said, Road Dog, about the game and a game they want, I really encourage them to be thinking about, find a way to build, like, think of it as an event company, right? Like, build an event company that does business coach on the back end, because there's a lot of coaches who are highly successful that love speaking and love events, and they get to be the star of the show. So, and they get to move a lot of people, right? Like, Road Dog, you put 400 people in a room, you now get to move 400 people at the same time, and they may buy from you and they may not, right? But you get to impact every single one of them if you're doing any kind of a job up there, right? You agree?
What's interesting to me too is just as you're saying that, I'm like, okay, well, so every coach should be thinking about what's the front end mechanism, right, for getting clients. What is that? What's the game that you want to play there, right? Is it live events? Is it virtual events? Is it something else? Like, what is it? Is it online workshops? Like, whatever it is, just know what that is, and be willing to play that. And the other thing I just want to. Yep.
Right. Like networking, you and I so networking might be their thing. That's the game they like to play. Like if you want to get results from networking, what you do is show up, find a realtor, find a mortgage broker, and then introduce the two of them. Watch what happens. Do you know what I mean? Like go in there, like think of that as a game and really, you know what I mean? Like that's how you go to like the mistake coaches make, right? Road Dog, you know this too well. They go to a networking function and they try to get clients. Go to the networking group and try to add value, teach them something, connect people. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, no doubt, add value. And then your turn comes. It's Gary Vaynerchuk, what is it? Jab, 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 left hook, but the left hook comes fourth. Right. So,
it's actually,
but anyway, so that, like networking might be their thing.
And the other thing I'll say is when it comes to networking, the biggest thing is know who you're working, like who you're serving and who you're helping. And this is something I'm actually writing this blog post, and it's the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, right? Like, okay, that's fine. And that seems to be a big mantra right now, Karl. I'm sure you're seeing it all over the place. Don't care about what people think and say, and that's all good, and that's so true. But what people I think are missing, and this is one thing that I've seen from one of my coaches who's had a big impact on my life, and that is I don't care about everybody, but the people that I serve, I do care for. So if you come in my path, like and you are the person that I'm being called to serve, watch out. If you're outside of that, I wish you the best. But it's that whole attitude of like, who is it that you do feel compelled, that you really want to help? Who is that individual, right? And as
so
soon
that
as
could
you
be,
have
that could be part of the game. I'm sorry but could that not be part of the game? Is like identifying who is that individual. Maybe it's a single mom, married.
Right.
Maybe it's a married, like a husband, right? Maybe it's a young guy. Maybe you love helping 25-year-olds in business. Like that could be part of your game, is working that out, right?
And imagine having a room full of those people, and now you're having fun, because like, who is it in the room that you could really enjoy working with? And if you have that, and like you said, okay, so let's say it's the single mom or whatever, right? Let's, like you're working with only female entrepreneurs. Guess what? You walk into a networking event, you've eliminated 50% of the room, right? You're not going to waste your time talking to the dudes. Like, why would you? That's not who you're there to serve. So you go and add a ton of value to all the ladies in the room. Like, it's just that, I don't know. We're on a bit of a tangent here, but I just think that that's a really important part. Like, who are you? If you were to fill a room where you would have a lot of fun doing what you do, what does that look like? Who is that? Who is the room filled with? Like that's what I'd be curious about, right? Because, and what are you talking about? Like what? And then again, what are the problems that they have that you're actually solving? And then reverse engineer
and make that a game.
Exactly.
Yep. Make it a game.
Right?
Make it fun. Well, there you go. Shoots. I agree, man. I like that. Totally. Make it a game.
So speaking of games, this is one hell of a segue, dude, because I'm about to ask you accounting. Because we haven't done that in a while, but accounting is a game. Like, it really, really is. Unfortunately, a lot of accountants just play it in reverse, right, rather than proactively. But you co-authored a book, right, Accounting 101 for Business Coaches, and I just when we because again, I just think accounting is so overlooked for a lot of business coaches, where they could, I think there's so much low-hanging fruit of nuggets and value bombs that they could drop on somebody that would definitely capture someone's attention and interest, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I was to just ask you high level, and I really am nervous on where this is going to go for you, but because I know you spend a lot of time going into accounting, and bravo for you for doing that, which is crazy. But like, what are some of the highlights of that book, Accounting 101 for Business Coaches? Just that we can use as takeaways and for going into the game of adding value.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say that, like, because again, it's kind of a bit of the game, right? Like I found like a deviation in the game and I was like, wow, like I was always like shied away from numbers, shied away from finance. And I found that I really enjoy it. Okay. Well, you mentioned game, like the language. If you give me a room of 100 people and I ask them, what is the language of business? 80%, if not 95, will put their hand up for sales and marketing, right? So very importantly, the language of business is accounting, right? Business done properly is math in so many ways. And by the way, this isn't me. This is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger talking, right? Accounting being the language of business. That's not my opinion. That's their opinion. And I encourage you to take their opinion. There's two things. Actually, I wrote an email about this in a blog post on my personal Facebook page some time ago, but I was like, two things that are very, very rare are being old and being rich. You notice that? Okay. Especially amongst entrepreneurs, by the way, because they find a way to, maybe we talked about it earlier with the boat, and the first class travel and private, etc. Um, so old and rich, Warren Buffett are very old, and Charlie Munger, very old, very rich. So what they say, I think you should really be listening to. I certainly am. Versus you go to your Facebook page and the new latest, greatest book that just came out that everybody wants to talk about, over a long, somebody's been successful for like 50 years. You should listen. Yeah, so there you go. Look, taxes, the book highlights taxes. The number one expense in your life is taxes. The end. Drop the mic. If you give me a room of 100 people and I say, what's the number one expense in your life? Same thing. About 80 hands are going to go up for housing and mortgage is what they'd say. They don't even realize that. By not realizing that, think about the insanity. And then especially, I talked not long ago, like when a guy plays in the NHL and signs a $5 million contract, it's not $5 million when you factor, like COVID and escrow, like $1 million contract during COVID and escrow, the NHL, the professional athletes bringing home about 1.5 million, or sorry, 150, like they're bringing like 50 net, and understanding that they tend to play in places like New York, LA, Vancouver, Toronto, the most expensive cities in the world. $1 million becomes less than 200 grand really, really quickly. So a $5 million contract is just not $5 million. It's significantly closer to a little over two during normal times and far less than two during COVID. But anyway, so just, taxes, escrow, lifestyle creep, etc. But taxes, I wrote about that in the book. Gross profit margin has to have a shout out to that. You need to understand margin. Again, just like a few days ago on Friday, I had, a lengthy discussion with a reasonably young entrepreneur who I think is going to be a real up and comer, doing some cool stuff. But here's the way I finished. I said, what is from this conversation? What's the one word that I want you to take away? Right. And obviously I didn't do a good job because he didn't know. And I said, starts with an M. And he goes, margin. And I said, gave him a high five. We're doing a Zoom dealio. So it's like margin. You need to understand margin. So critically important. Talked about this recently, but again, very important. Road Dogg writes down the top 10 brands in the world. I write down the top 10 brands in the world. You write down the top 10 brands in the world. The lists are going to look similar. Disney, Apple, Ferrari, Louis Vuitton, Burberry, et cetera, Rolex. They all have one thing in common. They have totally different deliverables, totally different businesses. They've all got margin. Okay. And if they don't, they're not making your list. The end. So understanding margin at a high, and there's a good chance that I say gross profit margin, and it kind of goes over your head and it kind of feels boring. Whereas Facebook ads are sexy and like way more exciting. They give you that, that little goosebumpy kind of feeling, versus margin does the exact opposite, kind of puts you to sleep. But I want to encourage you to maybe delve into it and start understanding it at a high level. Accounts receivable, and you go to work on your balance sheet, there's a little line item, accounts receivable. It's normally exactly that, a line item. If your client's got, like, you look at you don't need to look at their balance sheet, right? Just accounts receivable. It's work that they have completed that they haven't been paid for, right? Real simple. It shouldn't be a line item. It should be like, if there's 10 companies that owe 10 grand, and then how aged is that? 30, 60, 90 days, 120 or longer. Like, you know what I mean? You should have it broken down into amounts and the age of it. And all you need to do as a business coach is, it's very boring. They don't want to do it. They want to delegate it. You work with the business owner and say, here's what we're doing. We're collecting your money. You could cover your fees just doing that. And again, it's going to take a strong coach and a committed coach to get them there, because again, it's kind of a boring activity. Again, Facebook ads is sexy. Collecting money in accounts receivable is the exact opposite, but incredibly profitable initiative. But that's where you should be spending some time, and that's what I talked about. Understanding break even and the importance of it kind of falls into margin, but just so important, right? What is your client's break even? They probably don't have a clue. And just an example that I give often, like, if you've got a company and they did $1 million last year gross, and then let's say $600,000 was their break even, and then they have 50% gross profit margins, 20% net profit margins, what you're going to find is that they make significantly more money. Like, on the 400,000, they're basically putting $200,000 of profit, as in the $400,000 after break even, they're putting significantly higher percentage of that into their bank account. So all that to say, and without going through, I've talked about it many a times in the past, a very unsexy but profitable undertaking with your client is helping them control expenses, going through their line items on their profit and loss, and maybe just their credit card statement to make it super, totally easy. Very profitable undertaking. So anyways, Road Dog, so break even is something. Thinking in percentages, so powerful. Again, 20 to 30, my templated example, if you got a 20% margins, you increase them to 30%. That appears to be a 10% improvement, right? 20 to 30. If you made 100 grand last year, that would be 10 grand, which is kind of exciting, but not really. It's not that much. It gets way more exciting though. 20 to 30 is a 50% increase, not 10. Your business owner does not think like that with about a 90% predictability. Again, you're driving traffic to a landing page. You got 2% conversions. You elevate them to 3%. Very boring, not very exciting. It doesn't give you goosebumps. But what might give you goosebumps is 2 to 3% is not 1% improvement. It's a 50% improvement. So if the campaign was profitable a minute ago, it's significantly more profitable when you change the headline, put a flashing arrow at the buy button, etc. Also, again, like if you have a product that sells for $1 and one person buys it for a penny and one person buys it for 10 cents, right? A 9-cent gap. It feels like a 9%. Like you buy it for a penny, you buy it for 10 cents, sell it for $1. Well, the thing that you buy for 1 penny is not 9% more profitable. It's 10 times more profitable. Right? Again, that might sound like a little bit of Chinese arithmetic. Like, how the heck does that work? Just trust me on this one, right? Like, so you need to understand. You want to train your brain to start thinking in percentages effectively. Well, Warren Buffett, what's his saying? You want to find something that you can buy for a penny, sell for $1, and that is habit forming. Okay. The power of that. Again, you talk about somebody who's old and rich, but I want to find something I can buy for a penny, sell for $1, and that is habit forming. Think of chewing bubble gum as an example, right? Fall into the habit forming, and the answer would be absolutely. Facebook, habit forming. YouTube, habit forming. Think about all the things that you just, that trend. Anyway, so Road Dog, those, and look, maybe lastly, 3, so it can be a little bit intimidating, but there's really only 3 there's a zillion financial documents that the accountant can provide you, but 3, you just need to know 3 of them: balance sheet, profit and loss, and a cash flow statement. And they have, don't worry, but like 3 financial documents only that you need to know. And I would encourage you, like we ran training not long ago, 4 days on how to read financial statements and find your high-end coaching fees by looking at those financial statements. And it was, again, lots of accountants participated, raving reviews, I think would be an understatement if I just go by what they literally sent in unsolicited. But what I'm trying to do is just make you feel comfortable. If it's intimidating, then it doesn't need to be. So Road Dog, that's what I would say. Shoots. What do you think? That's what I'd say.
Well, okay, so I want to go a little deeper with that, in just the sense, obviously, you've been around for longer than like 3 minutes in this space. So you may or may not want to, but you fall into the mentor category, in my personal opinion, anyways. And you always say that a mentor can always tell you what not to do. So let me ask you, like, what are some major pitfalls that a business coach needs to avoid? I know that's sort of big, out there, whatever,
Yeah,
but
no. I hear what not to do. Well, okay, so if you do traditional certification, right? We meet those folks all the time. They say your client already knows what they need to know. You just need to draw it out of them, right? Like, again, it's kind of laughable. Like, I get a better saying, you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker, right? I'd be very cautious to think that your client magically knows what to do. If they knew what to do, 90% of business owners, businesses wouldn't fall from the sky and fail, right? So I disagree with that. They're not thinking about margin, right? They're thinking about gross profit margins. Like, what do they want to do, Road Dog? Again, talked about it to death, but it's so important. The chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, right? They want to get to $1 million. You give me that room of 100 people. I say, what's your goal? Write it down. 80% of the audience wrote down, I want to hit 7 figures, right? Like, that's a bad idea. If they're not doing it with margin, what happens is they go from 600 grand to $1 million, make less or slightly more at $1 million than they were making at 600 grand, as in they didn't protect their margins because accounts receivable and, giving discounts and all things, taking on more staff, all kinds of reasons behind it. But what happens is they become significantly more vulnerable at $1 million than they were at 600 grand. And that's my real concern, right? That's why businesses fail from success, because again, they don't know what the heck they're doing. What's that saying? I've seen it on my Facebook. You won't get criticized by someone doing more than you, right? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and people, you put that on your Facebook page, a bunch of people will agree. It's just absolute horsebucky. I know lots of people that do incredibly well financially, influencers and quote unquote, whatever. And, it's just not, it's pretty disappointing. And by the way, you tell me, but that, say you're not going to get criticized by people doing more than you. A little bit crazy, right? Multiple streams of income, your clients and you. Horrible. Remember that the second business eats the first. The second business needs to feed the first, right? So again, that's where the second business eats the first. Take that one to the bank.
Can I jump
very,
in
very careful with that?
Because I got a question for you on that.
Yeah, please.
Because you and I agree with you, right? Because it's that I think it was Russell Brunson that said, until your first funnel is doing $1 million, like, what are you even doing? Starting a second one. But for multiple streams of income, can you differentiate the difference between multiple streams of income versus having a proper ascension model where one feeds naturally into the other?
Yeah. Nice. Yes. Real estate, any business owner, the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, got it in for you, Shoots. They all of a sudden decide they're going to be a property developer, a real estate guru on the side. And they call it multiple streams of income. It 100% takes their time, their money, their focus, their resources, their energy, and pulls it away from their thing, right? You got to take your thing. So an example, let's say a business coach, right? Just use that. Well, if a business coach was going to start a second business, I would recommend they start like a networking group, like go head to head with B&I locally, right? Do that. That business, the second business will feed the first. That's a business you could convince me that you might be ready for, but I'm not going to agree that you're ready until you've got a strong foundation. You know what I mean? Because again, you start chasing around two rabbits. How does that work out? And the answer is not very well, as we know. So that would be an example, right? Or, again, there's only three ways to make money: stocks, real estate, business, right? You could throw crypto into that nowadays, but like there's only, there's such a limited ways to make money. Like business, by the way, stocks, you're betting on somebody else. Crypto, you're betting on somebody else. Real estate, you need a decade or a boom. And I don't think that there's a boom. The boom has happened well and truly. And I don't know that the butt's going to fall out of the real estate industry completely like the way people say it's going to. Don't know. I'm not the expert there. I'm pretending to be. But that being said, I do, there is not a boom on the horizon that I personally see. Right. So that boom's not happening. So stocks, real estate, business, you can double your money every 30 days for the rest of your life. So the richest people in the world, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Michael Dell, Buffett, Dalio, Charlie Munger, and the list goes on. They're all entrepreneurs, right? Business. They don't make their money in real estate. They took their money in business and put it into real estate when they were ready, for sure, a lot of the time. But they made their money and they were businessmen, make no mistake about it. So Road Dog, that's, I think that the second business eats the first. So if that's the problem, that's what not to do. The solution is the second business must feed the first, but make sure that you got the bandwidth, you got the resources, that you're not going to be pulling yourself too thin before you go and do it. So that's what I'd say, Shoots. You agree? You like? Is that what you're looking for?
I do, and it's interesting because the one thing that I really like is, because I talk about ascension and everything else, right? Because I know a lot of people go, well, is that a separate business? All roads lead to Rome, right? So as long as whatever you have on your front end, right, is leading to your coaching program, whatever that is,
yes,
right? That's what it is. And you know what? You can have many. It's sort of. And okay, this is an interesting one because I'm big into workshops right now. So I think a trap that people fall into big time is feeling the need, like even for live presentations, that all your live presentations need to be exactly the same. You could have, how many different categories, Carl, could you come up with of true needs for business owners? You could have one, the traditional one, right? That, like, let's say the one that you and I did, right, at the yacht club here. You could do one on marketing, digital marketing. You could do one on accounting for small business owners. You could do one on, like, you could probably think of 10, 20 different topics. But guess 100%. What? They all lead to your coaching program. And that's 100%. The same one. Yeah. Like it's 100%. And that's it. So it's like, okay, or they lead, again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Maybe they just lead to the next event, right? Or the next thing. What's the next thing? So maybe the next thing for you, because we're so busy half the time thinking that we got to close the client, we go from, meeting them at a networking event to trying to close them to one-on-one coaching. Well, maybe you meet them at the networking event to invite them to your next event, your local event. And then from there, the next step is to meet with them one-on-one. And then from there, maybe the next step is to use the software and then to close, right? Like it's 100%. Anyways, that's all. But for me, when I started to realize, like, and again, we talked about the game. You know what? Having multiple different things makes the game more fun because, like, okay, cool. Maybe I just enjoy talking about the accounting piece, or maybe I enjoy the variety of it and not feeling like this rut where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But just give yourself the variety within the game and give yourself permission to just go and do it. But all roads lead to Rome. That's where I'm at. Yeah. What do you think?
Hunter, 100%. So I just, like, for everybody listening, like, if you like that, so just picture a 1, 2, 3. Okay. So at Road Dog, so lead generation, you go to a networking group, you reach out to somebody on social media, you send a private message in LinkedIn, you cold call somebody, you get a referral, right? That's step number one. So just picture step number one is lead generate. This is exactly what I used to do, right? So lead generation, but all roads lead to step two. I would never go step one to step three, and I'll explain in a minute why, but it just never worked well. So step number one is I always then invited you to the next event, which was weekly, right? So let's assume that's an event at the chamber. So every bit of lead gen leads people to your event at the chamber, which is 2 hour, call it a marketing boot camp for the sake of the argument. We have a profit acceleration simulator, which would make I'd be opening up my simulator. If I were to do it tomorrow, I'd open up my simulator and I would just do it live, and I would show them right there, the different 12 areas of the business, and then the small increment areas. But let's not. Number two is a live presentation at the chamber. So every step from one goes to two, and then from two is the three, which is a one-to-one consultation, which I sell them into $1, $2, $3, $4, $5,000 a month consulting. That's it. That's step number three. But all roads. So the reason I never went from step one to step three is that I found when somebody saw me speak in public, I had a significantly higher level of control over the relationship. Like when I said, hey, write this down, and there was like 10 people, 50 people in the room writing down as I told them in their workbook, there's a high level of control that I have over the room. And then the preeminence that I had over that client were significantly greater. So therefore, when I was coaching them, they were significantly more compliant. So the way I frame it up is that when I said jump, they said how high, not why, right? A coaching client that's asking why with the wrong spirit. It's not that they should just blindly follow you, right? We wouldn't want that because we want to be educating them, but no doubt you get the idea, right? I don't want my coaching client pushing back. Otherwise, this is a relationship not going too far. So the secret and what needed to happen, like by them seeing me speak in public, my coaching relationship lasted longer and it worked better. So yes, Road Dog, and just think 1, 2, and 3. I actually had a 5-step process, by the way, but in the interest of making this easy for today, that's it. Boom, bingo, bango, bongo.
And again, what are you selling? You're selling the next step. That's all you're selling. You're not selling coaching. You're not selling a relationship or a commitment, because we all know people hate commitments. So why, if you've just met somebody, would you want to be committed to them, or why would they ever commit to you? So, anyways,
all right, what you got to do. Okay, Road Dog, can I give you two things? One, by them coming to your quote unquote marketing boot camp, whatever that is, the 2-hour presentation at chamber, they are going to realize that there's, things they know, things they don't know, and things they don't know. So what you're going to do, so I always say that if we're at the bus stop and I reach into my pocket and hand you a Band-Aid, you look at me like I'm some sort of a weirdo, right? Take 2 steps to the left and try to get away from me because you'd be like, what's wrong with this guy? But if I accidentally cut your arm, you know what I mean? Like there was a little cut on your hand and there was a little bit of blood trickling down, and then I hand you a Band-Aid, say, I'm so sorry, right? You can see that now the Band-Aid has context, right? So the Band-Aid without the cut and the blood just doesn't work. So when they come to your event and you explain goal setting and you explain time management and how, like, they've written down that they want to make $1 million, and you explain how that is a ridiculously poor goal and very uncreative. It's like if I go to my Facebook feed, there's all these high performance guys and they all have, the sleeve tattoo, the T-shirt with the Sheep's logo, flat brimmed hat, and they think that they're like being unique, right? It's like they all look the same, right? It's like, hang on a minute, guys. Like by trying to be unique, you just might not be being all that, unique. So anyway, so they come to your event and they're like, oh my gosh, and then you explain 80-20 rules and time management. They go, oh my gosh, he's right. I'm never getting through my to-do list tomorrow, and I have never taken the time to highlight 3 things that I need to get done before 10 a.m. Like I've never done that. Wow, I would be totally more productive the following day. And then you go through that for 2 hours, little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut. And now they're like, at the end, you offer the Band-Aid to get together one-to-one and go over their business specifically, where we have a process where we'll find them $100,000, 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, using our proprietary software, which populates a roadmap that they're going to be able to follow. Should they decide to work with us, we're going to be able to follow it together. Should they not decide to work with us, we could email over the report and say, hey, God bless you, good luck, right? Okay, so importantly, they need to so taking that, right? Like it's making sure they're doing that in the not offering band-aids to people who are not asking for band-aids kind of thing or looking for band-aids, or the context of a band-aid makes no sense. You got to educate them. The solution to high ticket sales, a solution to high ticket anything is always education. It's hard to do, but that's the magic. And then also, Road Dog, I just want to, hopefully they're picking up what we just put down there. Now, also complementary to that, here's a mistake I see all the time. People will come, they get testimonials and case studies, and they talk about success. Your testimonials need to lead them to the next step, not to the goal of coaching, right? So like if you're at a networking function and I'm trying to get you to my marketing boot camp, the testimonials on my marketing material and the stories that I'm talking about should be the people who came to the marketing boot camp for 2 hours and the results that they got as a result of that 2 hours. And then when they come to your 2-hour marketing boot camp, it should be talking about the one-to-one, getting together one-to-one and the impact that roadmap has created on business owners that have taken me up on a one-to-one, getting together with my software. And then when I get together with you and I'm finding you $100,000 in, record time, and we're doing the process where I'm doing a consultation, trying to close you. All of the stories, all of the case studies, all of the testimonials that I would put in front of you should talk about a 12-month relationship and how it changed their existence, change the complexion of their business, and been incredibly rewarding times 10. Right? You see that? So at the networking function, giving them the testimonial about working with me for 12 months and how it's been revolutionary. Probably it's a little bit. You're giving away a little bit of secret sauce. Your conversions will be higher with the other approach. So there you go, Shoots.
And oh my God, we're going over big time. But I just want to say with that, you invite them to your event. You're going to be sending them reminders of the event. And then again, if you're using the software, you're actually putting them into the e-learning system. So they're getting value added materials from you leading up to the event. But as you're sending them the reminders, don't just send them, hey, here's your reminder, your event's coming up in 3 days. Take the time, craft some good copy, and put those testimonials of how great the event is in that. You're building up the excitement of the event, and your show up rate is going to go through the roof. Like it's crazy. It's the same thing as now. Let's just use the same format, Carl, that you and I did. Now, I've converted every single person into the room to say, yes, Christian, I want to meet with you one-on-one. That actually did happen. So, okay, cool. So now I put them into a follow-up email sequence, leading them again to the one-on-one appointment. Maybe I send them a video of, hey, here's something I'd like you to watch. And then again, maybe testimonials of, man, the amount of value I got from that appointment and that meeting. You just continuously just reaffirming their decision that they're doing the right thing and building the excitement for the next step. Right?
Yep. This is it, bud. This is it, man.
Simple.
So
simple.
And again, simple, but you know what I mean? I got to challenge everybody again, not to call you out, but call on you to go and do it. Go, you help enough biz again. Every day I send out my email. Everybody gets my daily email that is interested in my stuff, the podcast. Hopefully we deliver high level of value here. This isn't like some Trojan horse where we hang out little, Trojan horses, right? And just give it to you right here. Just go follow. So do the same thing, folks, with the local business owners, and you'll, over a body of work, takes time, hard work, but you kill it. Like the end. There you go.
There you go. Not Trojan horses and not bull riding, but sheep riding. Anyways, on that note, is there anything that you want to just one thing that, obviously there was a lot that we just did there. Apparently you just have to cut people during your presentations. That seems kind of weird, but whatever. What's one thing that you think that would be the number one thing that people could do? Don't bring a knife to your events.
Yeah, exactly. Don't really. I maybe need to come up with a different example there, but anyway. So it's but the little cuts, little cuts. They get injured. No, I glossed over this earlier, but maybe, so we're talking about doing a live event, right? So let's assume you're going to do a live event and then you kill it. And let's just hypothetically say, net, you put 25 grand in your jeans, right? Like, boom, worked, everything, like presumably that's good for you, right? Well, how much feedback loop, right? How much, like, are you take 5 grand, right? Take your wife out to dinner, take your husband out to dinner, go on a trip, in the future, not immediately at all. You got some momentum, which is how we started the whole thing today. Take 20 grand and feed it back into your company. Like, are you willing to do that? And my experience is that most people aren't. Like, you got 25 grand of found money that you wouldn't have otherwise had because, boom, you knocked together the event that you wouldn't have otherwise done. You put 20 grand net in your jeans. Take the 20 grand, hire somebody. Take the 20 grand, like, just basically follow the road. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just use it as resources to get your next event done full. Instead of doing it in a month, do it in 2 weeks. Instead of doing it in 2 weeks, do it in a week. If you're doing it weekly already, consider doing, Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday morning and Tuesday afternoon. Like, just find a way, like, take the 20 grand and feed it back into your company. Buy some ads, hire some staff, buy high level education that, again, is going to elevate you. Start building intellectual property so that the coaching because you keep doing events, you're going to keep getting clients. So I got to tell you, you're going to, if it's all time for money, you're about to be, maxed out very, very shortly. And that's why people can't continue to do the events. So, we have a program where you build a team of 10 coaches as an example. That's how we solve that problem for our high level, multiple 6-figure, 7-figure operators. So feedback loop shoots, that's what I kind of glossed over it. We've done it different times in the past, but so important, right? So important. I don't think, as a general rule, when I have seen people do events, make some money, and then they spend it on, gas and the car and whatever, on living a better lifestyle as opposed to feeding it back into their company. You're thinking your company is like a child, right? Clothe it, bathe it, look after it, coddle it like nothing else, and then support it. Put good people around it. So that's my answer, Shoots. Feedback loop.
Perfect. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the sheep riding legend himself, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show of more great stories of Karl wearing red jeans, or how he doesn't put money in his, you keep saying money in your jeans, but for you it's sweatpants. It's weird. Anywho, if you're not getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on, some more of the software that Karl keeps talking about, or how to build your own team of 10 coaches, visit focus.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach. And as always, if you like what you heard, please give us a good review, as we know that will, boost us up in the rankings, as we know the streaming services love and give a ton of attention to that. And that is it for another week. We will see you in the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.